Hey guys, Ryan here, RDM, and I'm making a quick unexpected video because gotta go pick up the girl at work. She's not feeling well. No problem. So I'll make a little video. I got the engine here, I got an interview, and yeah, we got about 15 minutes of driving, so let's make a little video. Let me make this turn. Alright, so we're going to do an update on Gx50 V-twin, but now I'm just going to say Gx50. Now, I've been getting a lot of feedback from different people, and I've been getting a lot of honest reviews saying a little bit expensive. I have some people that are like excited about it, but that doesn't always mean that people have the means of buying it. Now, me personally, I wonder if people will find this interesting or not. I'm not really in a position to purchase a motor myself, a V-twin. What I would do is I would test it. I would love to use it a lot, and but I would realistically not own one right now. I have a lot of big moves going on and all sorts of stuff, so it's a little bit beyond my means while I'm trying to save up and buy things and do all that. It's a luxury product, this V-twin 2-speed engine. I do want to get some time on it, and I know a lot of other people do too. I am going to build it. But, you know, the economy's not great. People are being frugal. Good. People are just adjusting to how they should be living. And people were not living that way during, you know, when they were giving out COVID checks. I saw that in my orders. You know, people were kind of spending recklessly. I'm with it. I'm with being responsible with your money. So let me get to the point here. To make a 2-speed, there's a few proprietary parts that, when made in batches, they're simple shapes. There's nothing, no specialized tooling or anything. They're not very expensive, but in general, in manufacturing, a part will be anywhere from 1 to 5 operations. Each operation takes about 3 to 8 hours to set up, and each operation may take anywhere from 20 seconds to 30 minutes, an hour to complete. Now you can do all the math on that, about $100 an hour. You know, just the setups, if it takes 3 setups, and that could be a day and a half alone. That's a lot of money. Now if you're gonna make just one part, a day and a half plus the 20 minutes to make it, that's a lot of money for one part. Where if you make 500, you can almost forget about the setup fee. It gets distributed through all those parts, watered down to almost nothing. And then you're just talking about the 20 minutes apart, 20 bucks, basically, or something about that, you know? $25, whatever. So basically, you want to make as many parts as you can, and you really want to make parts that you can sell within 12 months. That's even pushing it. Honestly, you want to sell parts within a year of making it. I push that all the time. I'll go even years, and I know a lot of people in this industry will go years with parts on the shelf. That's just how it goes sometimes, and that costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money in material. So that's what we're up against. To make this V-twin, if I just make one of everything, we're talking about a $15,000 engine. I wasted my money on things like that before at that scale, but I don't like doing that. It's not fun. It's a big loss of time, you know, work I had to put in that just goes down the drain. So we want to try to at least break even and leave yourself in a position to later make money at bigger, you know. Once people start realizing what we're doing here, start to figure out what we're up to. So I do have some plans, but anyways, I'll try to post some video like next to my head, I guess. Here I'll do some editing. The mid shaft, there's this primary drive large sprocket. That sprocket there is pretty custom. It's not even remotely off the shelf. It has bearing and seal interfaces, grooves for clips, and some offset bosses. All easy stuff, but if I make it one at a time, it's going to be 3 operations, and it's going to be expensive for one. And there would be no other use for it. There's no reason for, besides the V-twin, for me to make it. Or is there? I want to use the original crankshaft in these Gx50s, remake this bottom, and I want to turn this engine into basically a China doll engine with a manual clutch and a primary reduction drive. I want to have the primary reduction drive, instead of being that gear drive, which is problematic, I want to make it a chain drive in this oil bath. You can see there's room in there next to that pulley. In between that crank bearing and that pulley, you can fit a number 35 sprocket there. And I can make a 2-piece sprocket that clamps down, and then you can, with the Dremel, make 2 flats and have a series of 4 set screws and 4 clamp bolts that hold a primary drive sprocket on. That'll be a kind of expensive custom piece, but it will work. We can use the custom crank. I would need to make a bottom half that would also be custom. A little bit technically difficult, but not impossible. And we'd have the clutch disc itself. If this engine was sideways, the clutch disc would be right here, like this. And the sprocket would be on this side. We would have this flywheel with the ignition up here, and the sprocket would be below it. And on this bottom case down here, I can have the motor mounts. This will be an awesome little engine. Well, a valve cover on a bicycle. Out of the box, they're 2 horsepower. I think you can soup them up. They're 100% duty cycle, so a 2 horsepower, yeah, maybe people might understand this. I actually just thought of this. A 2 horsepower, 100% duty cycle engine is way, way better than a 2 horsepower not 100. Well, actually, you know what? Forget that whole idea. I mean, we could talk about it a little bit, but I also thought about this morning and I forgot about it. Somebody asked in the group, how long can you stay at wide open throttle before you blow your engine up? And that's a really, really good question. Not all engines are 100% duty cycle. And 100% duty cycle in what conditions? If you're not moving, almost no China doll engine has 100% duty cycle. No, none do. Unless you have an electric fan-cooled AM6, which nobody has that I know of. They require the bike to be moving. These engines, they have a forced air cooling system. They would be 100% duty cycle in all conditions at the 2 horsepower. Now we can start souping them up and you might lose that 100% duty cycle. The same goes for the 2 strokes. I mean, even the AM6 with the water cooling system, I don't believe anybody really has theirs tuned to be 100% duty cycle. If anything, they use that extra capacity in cooling just to add more power, not to have 100% duty cycle. What I mean by that is, like, can you actually sit at full power, which fighting wind resistance at full speed requires, and just sit there all day and never have a problem. So yeah, I mean, these are good engines. They're 100% duty cycle. But to be honest, at speed, geared correctly, a China doll is too. Now, notice I said gearing. Gearing has a lot to do with the duty cycle. And even these things, I bet it's probably possible to gear these wrong or go up such a long, continuous hill that you can probably get the temperatures to rise an unhealthy number, you know, I imagine. But again, even going up a steep hill continuously, if you have responsible gearing, you know, I'll give you an example. If you're going up a hill that seems to never end and you're on a 44 tooth stock China doll, it might be all right. If you have a 36 tooth, even if it does make it up, your carb is going to act like it's super lean. And that's just how it is. I mean, a lot of people may know what I'm talking about. So the gearing has a lot to do with it, and actually that's why our Piaggio engines and our race engines, if you set it up like it's a racing, you have no duty cycle engine issues almost at all. Just because the engine, you try to use full power, next thing you know, it just blurps you to the speed you want to go, and then it's like, what do you know? You're not even using full power to fight wind resistance. You're way past the peak power at top speed, and really you're just fighting the inefficiencies of the motor at that higher RPM. You know, we could use higher timing than 180. Anyway, so back on track with the point of this. I want to make single speed Gx50 engines, and we're still keeping the theme going where we want to solve problems. We don't want to create new problems by making these even faster and even cheaper. The Piaggios we're talking about. Not yet. That's coming. It's going to happen, but we'll give it a little break. I don't want to. I mean, it wouldn't be good. We don't need to get into that. I did post a long comment explaining it. I can maybe read it one day if people want. But a single speed one of these, number one, it's feasible. It would be a good motor, and it would solve major issues. So normally these motors, they would have a pull start here, a flywheel here, and we're going to keep the flywheel, but on top of the flywheel, then they would have a clutch, which would need a bell housing and a bearing, and then a primary drive way out here. And the primary drive would be so wide on these things that they would end up having a shaft that would be like 2 inches long with a sprocket on the end of it, just sticking way out there, just so it actually is in line with the bicycle tire. You know, you can look it up, you can see those, and that's for this Gx50 engine, or the Gx50H, which is really almost the same thing, but it doesn't have this weird, unusual oiling system. And this weird, unusual oiling system is so this engine, you can store this thing upside down. You can run it in any orientation. They sell these as vertical shaft or 100% duty cycle applications, and you know, they're edge trimmers. You can use them any way you want. Chainsaws. So that's pretty cool for a 4-stroke. But the Gx50H is extremely comparable to this, but it has the conventional vertical splash oiling system that we're all used to, with the little dipper on the end of the rod. Also a great engine, but a little heavier. But again, the same complaint. The pull start is wide, the primary drive is wide, and besides being wide, they're not very good. I mean, sure, make an argument that some of them are good. I don't like them. What I want instead, I'm a 2-stroke guy. I'm the China girl guy, and it's not all about like 2-stroke versus 4-stroke. There's something about that engine, the simplicity, and I feel like I hear this coming from the people saying, I'm not really too interested. Realistically, I wouldn't get the V-twin. Because I'm a little bit of a purist too with the 2-strokes. I love the simplicity of just a manual clutch, 1 speed, and that's it. And then an engine with a long RPM range and a lot of usable power everywhere. I think we can get that out of this. I don't know of any manual clutch 4-stroke options besides the 3D clutch ones. I think you're talking about 13 inches wide, 14 inches wide. I mean, I don't like that. I think a GX200, which is now a Predator 212, I think that's too big for a bicycle. You know, for a race bike, it would be awesome, but I'm thinking practical. I'm driving a Honda Civic right now. I've had Porsche and BMW and all sorts of Mercedes and a lot of modified cars, Turbo, Mazda, Triumph TR6. That was also slow though. Anyways, point is, I kind of like a car. I like underpowered sometimes in a way. Like I like medium powered. Sometimes with like the Piaggio or a powerful car, I mean, it's cool for showing off and taking to the shows and taking to the races and really, you know, showing you build something fast and all. But for daily use, I mean, you're accelerating and it's just like, burnt, you're at speed, and now you're just like, you just have to keep tapping the throttle because it has way too much. It's unsafe. You get kind of shaky. You get you know, like shocks of adrenaline just from a little drive, it genuinely increases the danger of the whole vehicle. I mean, if it leans out, you start running out of fuel. That little lean overrun that it has, if you have the clutch engaged and you're not really paying attention, when you have a built race motor, it does that a lot harder than a China girl. So it's kind of nice to have an underpowered motor on a bicycle. You don't have to build a $2,000 roller just to be remotely safe. So I don't think we need a 212 bored out to 250cc that with the clutch weighs 50 pounds. I want something that weighs what a China doll weighs. And this 50cc here, I like it a lot.